to be part of this group, and really looking forward to working with you all. So I will officially call the meeting to order, Maryland Heritage Areas Authority, and we will proceed. So on the first note, you all have the agenda. I did ask that we put times next to items and try to kind of move things along, particularly the action items, not to cut off discussion, but to just be respectful of everyone's time. We're also going to be trying to move through these meetings in 2 hours. So I have asked the meeting to actually be rearranged a little bit also, so that we have ample time for presentations towards the end. But at the same time, I think people can only sit for so long. So I'm also going to build in a quick break so that we can have a stretch break to make it a little easier on folks before we get into that. Couple of things from me, and then we'll do an opening round just to make sure everyone knows who's on the line from the members specifically. But in addition to just trying to keep these meetings to 2 hours in terms of some of our business part of the meeting, I'll be attempting to do that as the chair. And then really ask you, if at all possible, I know people are in different locations, turn on your camera if you can, at least now and then, so we can all get to see and know each other. I just think that's really important. If you need to stretch, please, do what you need to do, but I think it's really helpful so we can get to know each other. And then I think the other part of this is just, we'll be announcing later, but in-person meeting later in the year, and that'll give us a chance to get to know each other a little bit more also, but we'll talk about that a little bit further down. So at this point, what I'd like to do is just do an opening round with all of the members, kind of as a roll call, but also give you all a chance to just say who you are and who you're representing or affiliated with. And so we can just get to know everyone, since some of us are new at this point. And if anyone, I'm going to try to make sure I speak up so that you all can hear me. But if my voice starts fading after 2 hours and we need to do something more, then we'll figure that out. So first of all, let me just kind of introduce myself officially. Rebecca Flora, the new Secretary of Planning. I am a planner by profession. That is my background. And I actually have had a fair amount of experience and background in historic preservation and cultural resources and community development. So I'm truly excited to have the Maryland Historic Trust under the umbrella of the Maryland Department of Planning, and also to be chairing this particular authority. One of about, I don't chair them all, but I have at least 30 different commissions that I'm assigned to. So as chair of this one, it will have my absolute attention and focus, and I'll do my best. And that's about it for now. I live in Chestertown, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore, and I've enjoyed working with a lot of folks over this way. So with that, I'm just going to kind of go down through my list of who I believe is here. And if I miss someone at the end, we'll do that. And I also want to note that we will introduce the Heritage Area Directors later on in the program. I really want to focus on the business meeting portion of our work here today first, and then we can get that behind us and have some ample time for discussion and hearing more about what's going on in the various heritage areas. So with that, let's just go down through the list that I have in front of me, which is what I'm going to use. So Melissa Archer, are you with us?
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'm Melissa Archer. I'm delighted to join you and meet you. I see some familiar faces, but also new faces. And I am happy to be representing Secretary Jacob Day from the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Wonderful. Thanks, Melissa. Next, I have on here Elizabeth Fitzsimmons.
3 years later, still working to get off mute. Hi, welcome aboard, Secretary. I am Liz Fitzsimmons, Managing Director for the Office of Tourism and Film, and I am here for Secretary Anderson of the Department of Commerce.
Well, thank you. Lee Towers. Anyone from higher education? Okay, we'll mark that off for now. Marty Baker.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty Baker. I'm with the Maryland Department of Transportation, and I'll be representing Secretary Paul Wiedefeld. Very happy to be here. Very happy to have been able to be involved with this group for, I think it's over 10 years now. So looking forward to a lot of great stuff moving forward.
Great.
Welcome, Secretary.
Thank you. And I will certainly be looking to all of you more seasoned folks to help keep me on track here. Thank you. Secretary Kurtz, are you with us, or a representative from Natural Resources?
Hi, my name is Hillary Bell. I'm the Director of the Land Acquisition and Planning Unit at the Department of Natural Resources, and I am sitting in for Secretary Kurtz today.
Great. Thanks for being with us, Hillary. Elizabeth Hughes.
Good morning, Elizabeth Hughes. I am the director of the Maryland Historical Trust, and I serve as the State Historic Preservation Officer in Maryland. Delighted to be here.
Great, thank you. I believe we have Roland Agbigi, help me out with the last name, representing Secretary Atix today. Roland has left the meeting, according to my virtual screen here. Hopefully it's coming back. I know Secretary Atix is planning to join us whenever possible. Very interested in actually the authority. So the next one on my list is Leah Renzi.
Hi, good morning. I'm Leah Renzi. I'm representing Superintendent Chaudhry from the Maryland State Department of Education. I look forward to learning and working alongside the group, and I live and work here in Baltimore, Maryland.
Wonderful, thank you. Next one, in terms of the appointees, those were all sort of the secretary, executive delegates and appointees. We're going to go to the other public appointees, and starting with Pete Lesher. Pete, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Pete Lesher, Maryland Association of Counties.
Great, thank you. John Kennard. John with us? Okay, you'll be joining later. Nicholas Redding, I guess I'll reach out there. Nick.
Hey there, I'm Nick Redding. I'm President and CEO of Preservation Maryland, and here is the representative for Senate President Ferguson.
Thank you. Next one, Jonathan Hughes. Not with us?
Not with us today. He was unable to attend.
Oh, that's right. I had that note. Thank you. Marianne Harms. With us? Okay. And Ariane, if you see any of these people join later for the roll call, I'm sure you'll know that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Natalie Chabot. Chabot?
It's Chabot, and I'm here. I live in Cambridge, and I've served in different roles associated with the Heritage Area Program.
Wonderful. Chabot, thank you. Another Eastern Shore person. Thanks. Okay, the next one I have is Bob Campbell. He wasn't sure. Bob, were you able to join us?
I'm here. Yes.
Oh, hi.
Hi, folks. Bob Campbell. I'm a governor's appointee for historic preservation expertise. I serve in a citizen capacity here and make my home in Silver Spring, Maryland. I do work for the National Park Service with about 34 years of experience in planning.
Great, thank you. And then I have Dennis Doster.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dennis Doster, and I am the governor's appointee for Heritage Tourism on the board. And so I just finished 2 years of a term already in progress, and so now I'm excited to begin a full term. And I serve as director of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission's Black History Program in Prince George's County, but I am a native and resident of Baltimore City.
Great, wonderful, thank you. Be here. Okay, I think I made it through everyone. Anyone that did not introduce themselves that maybe joined later before we move on? Hearing none, we'll keep moving then. So the first action item that we have is the approval of the minutes from the January 12th, 2023 meeting. If you were not at that meeting, you really didn't know what happened. So I would recommend that you abstain, but anyone that was at the meeting and can validate that those records are accurate, if you would, I could hear a motion for the approval of those minutes.
Pete Lesher, I so move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second. It's Marty.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone abstaining, raise your hand. raise your hand on the screen. I think if you do that. Give staff a chance to record. And then anyone opposing, hands down, speak out if you're opposed. Okay, I'm going to say that that motion has passed and we have approved the January 12th, 2023 minutes. And Ariane, feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm off base anywhere along the way as I make my way through the first meeting. So I think we get that one recorded.
Will do.
Okay, the next item is the management report, which Ariane is going to work us through the items that you see in front of you on the agenda. I am going to actually ask that we hold questions to the end. That way we can get through all of the information and then we can circle back and make sure we have time for questions on whatever of these topics that you may have a question on. I think it'll just ensure we get through the information in a timely manner. But please do jot down your questions, and then we'll try to ensure that if there are any, we can get those addressed. So, Ariane, if you want to do this and get started on these various reports that you have, please do.
Yes, thank you, Secretary Flora. So I'll start with a financing fund update. The last meeting, we reported that we had $41,558.32 in our financing fund. Since then, we had one grant from fiscal year 22 that withdrew, which added $8,500 to our financing fund, bringing us up to a total of $50,058.32. A reminder that at the last meeting, the authority did vote that we would be setting aside $100,000 of the fiscal year 24 money for emergency purposes. So the amount of our financing fund will increase when that fiscal year 24 money is put into effect. And to that, the $6 million appropriation that was requested for our fiscal year 24 funding did go through the last legislative session. So that is always good to hear. And that is all I have to report on the financing fund.
All right.
Yes.
Ariane, I just want to know, I just put into the chat box, if any of the members have questions, if you would just put them in the chat, then we can be sort of organizing that process. And I see Secretary Adams just joined us also. So I'll continue and take that note. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. For our next three items, the fiscal year 23 grant updates, the fiscal year 24 updates, and our fiscal year 22 annual report, I'm actually going to ask Martha Waldron to report on those items. Oh, Martha, if you're reporting, you're on mute. Are you with us?
I'll just skip to the next one and we can come back to that.
Sure. Well, I can give you quick updates on those. For our fiscal year 23 grants, we're in process in the final stages of our grant agreements for fiscal year 23. We have approximately 73% of our grants agreements that are in place, and the other 30% are in process and very close to wrapping up. Those will most likely be completed by the first week of May. I know all of our grant recipients will be very pleased to have those in place. For our fiscal year 24 grant round, we are right now at the review stage with our state grants review panel, moving towards the July MHAA meeting, where all the recommendations from the grants review panel will be presented to all of you for final approval. So we'll be spending the next couple of months really having deep conversation and review of the 168 applications that were received. The total ask amount was approximately 8.6 million out of those 168 grants. So good batch of applications, and we're very pleased to be also for the first time this year using a new revised grant application and scoring sheet that was recently revised. And we hope that all will find it a little bit more user-friendly and eliminate some of the barriers that we were getting feedback on previously. And Martha, are you able
Yeah.
to give the fiscal year 22 annual report update?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Very sorry about that. And hello to everybody. Thank you, Ariane, for giving the updates. Just a quick update on the fiscal year 22 annual report. We are wrapping up that report. It's just about finalized, and we'll be sending it out to both the authority and the heritage area directors when it's finished. That, as you can imagine, just gives an update about the fiscal year 22, the grants awarded, a background on the program, and is a great marketing piece, I think, for the program in general. So we'll send that out when it's ready.
Great, thank you. As to member appointments, obviously we have new members that are joining us today. We're very pleased. In total, we're anticipating 5 new members joining the authority for this 2023 year. 3 of those are with us today, in addition to all of the new secretaries that have been confirmed and are in place. Welcome to everyone. We do have 2 vacant positions that we are still looking to fill in an interim basis for the rest of the year, and hope that those individuals will be able to join us for the July meeting. And to all of our new members, we will be doing an orientation in the next couple of months. We'll be polling everyone to see what your availability is like and get that on the calendar so we can give you some more background and detailed information. We appreciate everyone jumping in to this meeting, but look forward to spending some more time just giving a little bit more context about the program.
Yes, thanks for mentioning that, because I think orientation is just really important so folks can really fully engage and have that background before the next meeting. So thank you for ensuring we have that before the July meeting. The other thing I wanted to mention is just overall conflict of interest, ethics training. I think it's really important as an authority that we update our conflict of interest forms. And then we're also checking on basically ethics training and things just to make sure we're operating in a very appropriate way.
And we are checking with our legal office to see what's required and recommended to that effect. So
well, I strongly recommend conflict of interest forms at a minimum. It doesn't mean you can't be involved and you can't vote, but as you're all aware and having been involved in, I'm sure, other boards, it just ensures that we are operating in a very transparent way, so that we are at least ensuring that things are developed, are put forth. So that's really the other thing. So, next item on your report.
Yep. So the Racial Equity Working Group. At the last meeting, we had reported that, if you all remember, the consultants Symphonic Strategies had presented a draft report to the authority, to the Racial Equity Working Group, and to the Heritage Area Directors back in November. And we gathered everyone's comments from that presentation, shared them with Symphonic. And over the last couple of months, we tried working very closely with Symphonic to produce a revised report that would address those concerns. But ultimately, Symphonic requested that we actually terminate their contract because they acknowledged that they had some management challenges on their end that really prevented them from being able to produce the revised report that we requested and fulfill the terms of the contract. So with that said, we do still believe that there was a lot of good information that came from our work with Symphonic over the last year and the draft report that was presented. So the staff put together a memo that outlined the background, the process, and highlighted those items that we felt could be put forward for recommendation for potential phase 2 work of racial equity analysis. That memo has been shared with the Racial Equity Working Group, and they're going to be meeting next week and discussing it, deliberating. And then I anticipate that the Racial Equity Working Group will be putting recommendations forward to all of you at the July meeting for you to consider and decide what you would like to do for next steps. And one final note about our contract with Symphonic. If you all recall, it was initially a $50,000 contract. We did pay them an initial $10,000, but we will be recouping $40,000 of that initial encumbrance. So we will still have funds if we decide that we would like to apply them towards this work, in a different way or with a different consultant moving forward.
Thanks for that update. And I just want to let everyone know that I am getting directly involved in this and will be at that meeting next week so that we can really ensure that we get a path forward moving on this topic. Despite this hiccup with the consultant, we are going to stay on track to ensure that we're still responsive on this very, very important topic. So I will be at that meeting and we will ensure that there's recommendations at the July meeting of the authority. So that being the last of the reports, you have the information. I see a couple questions that have come up in the chat. I'm going to try to institute the chat going forward because it kind of helps us record what's on people's minds. We've answered one question I just want to put out there. One of the questions says, does the 8.6 million total asked for fiscal year 2024 include management grants? Martha responded and said, no, the 8.6 million only includes project grants. So if you don't have your chat open, please do that. If you have questions at this moment, I'm happy to take those questions. If you raise your hand, we will go through that. If you have a question, you just want to make sure you get in the queue, please do put it in chat, and I would ask that the staff make sure we record questions in chat so that we'll make sure this come up. So Pete, I see your hand up. Thank you.
A question about, thank you for the updates on the timetable for grant agreements. I think that's it's been a little slower this year than in the past, and wondering if you might offer some further detail on that, and whether we're getting systems in place to streamline that.
Absolutely. So the main issue related to the delay this year, which is we are admittedly a couple of months behind where we usually are. One of the key staff positions that helps with processing those grants agreements left the position at a time in the process that really affected our ability to get those out in the same manner that we had in previous years. The really excellent news is that that position has been recruited for, is going to be filled. The issue moving forward should be rectified by not only having that position in place, but we are also looking internally at how to really streamline processes and make this whole grant agreement administrative end of things as efficient as possible for next year. So we really don't anticipate there being the same issues, and it may even be a more refined system moving forward. So,
other questions? You see, I see you added something. The coalition is very concerned about the overall lag time of both the agreements and funding. Thank you all. Yes, we are really working this year to improve efficiency. As you all are sure well aware, staffing is a big issue that all the new secretaries are facing, and we're trying to ensure that we're expediting the filling of a tremendous number of vacancies across state government. So that's sort of not, that's kind of across the board. But in terms of our area, our space of the world, we're actually really digging down with human resources and all hands on deck to make sure we're getting positions filled across the board, in particular in my department and area. And I would say, in addition to that, really working closely with IT and others and legal to ensure we can come up with ways to be more efficient in these processes and be respectful of the fact that not all organizations have the same level of capacity to use these more efficient while still maintaining whatever legal requirement. So personally, we're really digging down into the issue. Other questions regarding any of the reports that were just made? Okay, Hearing any, I'm going to move ahead. And if something comes up, feel free to put it in the chat. It might be something we can just give you a simple answer to through that. So the next item is we are going to move into the really the first of several action items that we have in front of us. First being the actual 5-year action plans. And Ariane, who's going to start walking us through those that we're approving as full plan approval, and being our resolutions. You have your resolutions also in front of you. So this would be related to those plans listed as resolution R200. We'll be looking at those first and going through those and having an opportunity for any questions on those before we move into the next set of them, which will be the short term and the deferred ones. So Ariane, you want to introduce first?
Yes, thank you. So the first action in front of you, as Secretary Floor just said, is resolution R200 to approve the completed 5-year action plans. It's resolved that the authority approves the requests of the following heritage areas to approve their 5-year action plans, which are covered for the time period fiscal year 24 through fiscal year 28. As presented, the full action plans that you were sent ahead of time include Beach to Bay Heritage Area, Chesapeake Crossroads, Heart of the Civil War, Heart of Chesapeake Country, Lower Susquehanna, Mountain Maryland, and Patapsco Valley Heritage Area. And we're not going to go into great detail about each of those. We are working off the assumption that everyone had a chance to review them ahead of time, but certainly if there are any questions or discussion that wants to take place, the Heritage Area Directors are with us and could answer those directly. And we'd be happy to hear them before moving on with the vote.
Yeah, so let's take a few minutes to see if anyone, as they were perusing and reading through these plans, and first of all, great work, everyone out there on these heritage plans and having these in place and done. I mean, I have reviewed them. I'll be looking at them closer, and I look forward to getting out to each and all of the heritage areas and learn more about those personally. But in terms of this first batch, do any of the authority members have questions specific to Pete?
No, not a question so much as a comment. A number of years ago, this authority moved away from statewide priorities to reinforce the local decision making behind heritage tourism planning, and this is the heart of what we do. These are I think well thought out plans. These are but also representative of what is going on, what brings out the particular strengths for particular localities around Maryland. Maryland is an incredibly varied state, and so the use of statewide priorities was in the past somewhat problematic. And I just want to commend each of the heritage areas for getting through this process and renewing that local decision making, for bringing out what makes those areas particularly attractive to bring in heritage tourists.
Thank you, Pete. That's just such a great comment to point out in terms of, everything's local. So really having those uniqueness of Maryland, which is just a phenomenal place, come out in this comment is great. Other questions or comments?
Oh, I believe that Secretary Flora may have frozen on us. Is everyone all seeing a frozen screen?
Yes.
Let's see if we can give her a few more minutes to recalibrate. While we're waiting on that, I will just add a couple of points about the 5-year action plans. As a reminder to our returning authority members, but new information for those that are joining for the first time. Each of the heritage areas, when they are certified, have to complete a very comprehensive management plan. That is a foundational document for them, and goes into great detail about their themes and their strategies, as well as, what their goals are, and defines their local interests and their boundaries. The 5-year action plans are a way to keep those management plans up to date and relevant in a manner that doesn't involve them having to go into redoing those very comprehensive plans. It's more of a more immediate way that they can keep their strategies and their goals up to date in 5-year increments. So that was something that was put forward the last time that the Heritage Areas program put its own strategic plan in place. It was a mechanism for the heritage areas to keep us and themselves up to date and informed on current priorities. The other thing that I'll add is that what is being presented today, we're doing in 2 sets. We did initially ask all of the heritage areas to complete their 5-year action plans by this date. We did have, oh, I'm hearing, is there reverberation coming through on me?
Someone has a phone and,
I've muted them. You should
Thank you. Okay. I'm not sure. Okay, thank you. That seems a little better. We did have, as you might recall at the last meeting, we had 6 heritage areas that requested a deferred start date. The goal was to have everyone start at the beginning of fiscal year 24, but we did have 6 that had some extenuating circumstances that asked if they could defer their start date, but we will still be keeping the same end date in place. So the way that we're going to present these action items and vote on them, we're having the full 5-year action plans presented first under Resolution 200, and then the deferred start date heritage areas will be a separate item that you all will vote on as Resolution 300. And the last thing I wanted to add is that the MHA staff did do a review of these 5-year action plans and the deferred action plan requests. And we did send yesterday a memo outlining some recommendations that we'd like to make. We are recommending at the staff level that we move ahead with approving the full 5-year action plans and the deferment requests. But we have just some very minor recommended conditions that we'd like to work with the heritage areas on. Mostly it's related to cleaning up formatting or just verifying dates and just where we saw some small discrepancies or some questions. So that memo was something you all should have received. Again, they were minor, but in considering your vote today, we at the staff level request that the approval be considered with the staff recommendations in mind. And Bob, did you have a question? And Secretary Flora, you're back.
I'm back. I apologize. Yep, the challenges of working remotely, but thank you for keeping things going. And yes, let's hear from Bob.
no question. You just addressed it. I wanted to be sure that we were being consistent about saying as presented in the resolution, and yet we have a memo that specifies conditional on the inclusion of some changes. But
thank you. We will make that adjustment in the resolution language and in the minutes. We'll make sure to reflect that as well.
thank you. That's all.
And I see Lucille had a comment. Want to respond?
Oh, Secretary Flora, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, let's try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That is better, yes.
I just saw a comment from Lucille. Can you respond to that, please, on the chat? Anyone see that comment? Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So no comment. Yes, I think it's a good comment from Lucille in terms of reaching out to directors. I think it's just a timing thing. Apologize that we weren't able to do that before the meeting. And clearly direct dialogue is going to be critical moving forward. Like we said, the comments, if there were major comments or things that resulted in the plans not meeting the intent and the requirements of that process, we would have clearly been in touch. We just felt that some of these things were noted. And I saw another hand up. I'm trying to find that hand. Who was that? Is it Marty?
Yeah, my hand had been up. I was just going to observe that in the past, we had the technical advisory committee involved in reviewing some of these management grants. And I think, lots of good reasons for moving to a more new model, but I just wanted to reiterate that, state agencies may have resources or information that could help strengthen the capacity of the directors as they try to implement these management plans. And at least for my part, that door is still open for MHA staff, for your staff, or for the Heritage Area staff to reach out to talk about which resources might help them get to and deliver on these objectives. A lot of good stuff in there.
Thanks for that, Marty, because I think the cross-agency collaboration is critical. There's so many aspects to this. I think with the transition this year, everyone's had their hands full, but I think that's a great offer, so thank you. So we keep that in mind. Other questions? Anything else that came in? Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve Resolution 200 as stated.
To Bob's point, do you want to present it as modified to include staff recommendations?
I believe in our discussion that we felt that was really unnecessary since they were minor comments.
Okay.
The conversation, unless anyone wants to make that part of their motion. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the resolution as stated? Bob, first, second.
I'll second. Pete Fleischer.
Who is that, Pete? Thank you, Pete. Okay. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? I am going to proceed with everyone in favor of resolution R200 as stated here, and we'll note that for the record. Thank you all. And the staff will work directly with the heritage areas on the comments and just talk through those.
Understood.
So next up, resolution 300. These are the ones that have a deferred start date and they are interim action plans. Any remaining questions on these interim action plans? Not seeing any hands come up. Here's Marty. Marty, do you have a question?
Yeah, just a minor question. I mean, most of them, it's very clear why a deferral makes sense or is required. I guess, in general, I was hoping for more detail on some of the activities that are going to be pursued during the deferment period. And for example, the Stories of the Chesapeake, great stuff. They describe the timeline for the feasibility study, but I wonder if there's an update on that. It said start spring 2023. So minor questions like that, just seeking a bit more detail on what we can expect to see when.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. And you know what? Actually, Stories of the Chesapeake, for instance, we do have 5, actually a total of 6 presenters at the end of today. And maybe that's a good opportunity to, have ample time to maybe ask any questions at the end, at least of those 6 that are presenting today. Thank you. Any other questions on the deferred plans? Interim action plans. And then I'll take a motion for resolution R3300 as stated here. Anyone want to make first on that motion?
So moved. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Hughes, second.
I'll second. Marty Baker.
Second. Thank you. Anyone abstain? Anyone opposed? Then I will move the motion forward as being accepted based on that vote. And we'll move on. So everyone that is present, just for the record, which we have in the screens here, should be noted that we have approved both of those last two resolutions based on who's present here today. Okay, resolution 400. And so this one is to amend the boundary of the Beach to Bay Heritage Area. And who from our staff is going to talk about this one? And we have done that also, correct?
Yeah, Andrew will be presenting our boundary amendments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. You did a great job. Many years ago when we were certified heritage area, we could not just say all three counties are part of the certified heritage area. We had to create this sort of spine of byways and a network of roads. And over time, we have realized some glaring omissions, and Janes Island State Park is probably the #1 visited location in Somerset County, along with the Smith Island, Crisfield area. And it was just an oversight. And as you mentioned, the existing boundary practically touches Janes Island State Park. And we're just asking to include the park within our boundaries. And yes, so they can move forward in hopefully a favorable recommendation for a capital grant application.
Thank you, Lisa. So we'll go ahead and take a few questions for Lisa or Andrew, and I see it hand up already.
Sorry, I'm sitting in for Secretary Kurtz, so I just wanted to confirm that you had talked to staff at Janes Island State Park.
We did get a letter of support from them asking that they be included.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other questions specific to this Beach to Bay boundary amendment? Not seeing any out there. Thank you for that. So I will take a motion to approve resolution R400 for the boundary amendment to Beach to Bay as presented. Anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion. Melissa Archer.
Melissa, thank you. Second?
Sure, I'll second.
Pete, thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
I'm going to abstain from this one. The Park Service has an ongoing planning agreement with Janes Island State Park, and just to stay clear, I'll abstain.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Any other abstentions? Then I will say that the motion passes, presuming everyone else on here is in favor. If they are not abstaining or saying.
Oh,
thank you.
Yep. Unfortunately, I think Rebecca Flora is frozen again, but I think we were very close to being done with that motion and that vote. Why don't we go ahead and proceed with having Andrew present our next boundary amendment.
Thank you, Andrew. You did an excellent job of presenting this simple administrative request. We did do our boundary amendment during COVID, and we didn't really have the chance to meet all of the potential partners as we might have had if everyone was up and running during that period. And we did come to meet this applicant when they came to the MHAA grant application session. We believed that they would be a terrific addition to the stories right there along Generals Highway.
Great. Thank you, Carol. Does anyone have questions for Andrew or Carol?
We can barely hear you, Secretary Fleur, but we're glad that you're back.
Yeah, I'm dialing in. You know, the great thing about living on the Eastern Shore is it's so beautiful, but sometimes connectivity can be a challenge. So Bob, I'm glad you're here, so feel free to jump in if there's, so we can keep moving when I kind of have my, but I am calling in. That's why you're seeing the phone go on, so that I'm calling in when my video goes down. But thank you all for your patience.
You're coming through very clearly now.
Okay, great, thank you. So any questions on this particular boundary extension from anybody? Okay. Carol, thank you so much for providing this. Looks like it makes a lot of sense. So I will start out with anyone opposed to this extension. Okay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, then the motion passes, presuming everyone else present is in favor. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Great job. Okay, so we are moving along very well on our agenda. We have plenty of time for discussion. So the next item is discussion items, starting with the additional fiscal year 24 operating funds for the heritage area. Ariane, are you going to start us off there on that one?
Yes. Just wanted to share with everyone that thanks to the strong advocacy efforts of the coalition, and perhaps Lucille will be mentioning this in her remarks later, there was a one-time additional $500,000 that was appropriated for MHAA. And the language, as we've seen it so far, states that it is to enhance the grants provided to the 13 heritage areas. So that is I think a general and broad application of those funds. And I just wanted to let everyone know that at the state level here, we are working to try and identify the most efficient way to distribute those funds to the heritage areas in a way that hopefully doesn't add too much more paperwork or process. But we are still working through that, and the staff will come to a decision on that. It's something that we'd like to be able to be provided at the start of the new fiscal year. So more to come on exactly how those funds will be distributed, but we are looking into all the options.
Thank you, Ariane. Does anyone have any questions specific to that item that's currently in process? Basically, and we'll have an answer. I mean, that will get finalized certainly well before the July meeting. So
yes, the process will for sure. Yes,
get this all done. As you all know, the General Assembly just wrapped up session, proved everything, and now we're kind of moving forward with the next stages of implementation. Any questions on this one? Okay, and feel free, like I said, if it's just a point of clarification, to put it in the chat. I'll be happy to follow up with you also. So the next one I think is quite exciting because I'm all a fan for getting to know people and seeing people in person. So Ariane, do you want to start us off with the thought on this particular item?
Sure. We certainly have had a lot of feedback and requests, and as Secretary Fleur just said, we're all interested in getting back together in person. We are looking to the October meeting of this year as a way to plan out our next in-person meeting. We know that in the past, one of the formats that's been followed before COVID, before we were all doing so much virtual meeting, was that there was a rotating schedule to try and highlight and be able to visit the different heritage areas. So we're looking at putting a new rotating schedule in place. One thing that we had discussed with Secretary Flora recently was that perhaps thinking towards next year, we shoot for having maybe 2 in-person meetings and 2 virtual meetings. There are benefits to the virtual meetings, particularly for the July meeting when there's a lot of information that needs to be pulled up and presented, and we really want the highest attendance as possible. So for now, we're looking to October, more information to come. And Secretary Flora, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, I think we really want to make these in-person meetings an opportunity to also showcase what's going on in each of the heritage areas. So this is just early ideas. Welcome to input from the authority members. But the notion of having our business meeting, 2 hours in the morning, using an opportunity to basically be able to have lunch together, and then do some local presentations, site tours, perhaps, and we can manage to make that happen twice a year in different locations. That would be ideal and what we're striving for right now. But we certainly are open to thoughts, and we would want to get that on calendars as soon as possible so that people can be planning for these things also. So we're going to be working hard to make that happen. But any thoughts on that, or added comments about pursuing that goal of 2 in-person? Pete.
Just to give you the reinforcement, this has been enormously valuable in educating authority members about heritage resources in areas that, for example, Secretary, for you and me on the Eastern Shore might seem quite remote to us. Maryland's quite a broad state and quite a lot of variety, and those have been enormously, those site visit meetings have been enormously valuable to me in my participation on this authority.
Great. Thank you for that, Pete. Appreciate that support. Other questions, comments, thoughts on that? Okay, then stay posted. We will try to pull this together as soon as possible. And like I said, in an effort to get it on calendars and to have maximum participation. We know traveling, people are traveling across the state. It could require a full day commitment, but we hope to make it worthwhile and use that as a great opportunity to showcase also. So thank you all for that. Okay, well, the next item we have here are basically an opportunity for any member announcements that may be relevant to the authority that anyone may want to share with folks. I can do this through a raise of hands. I guess that's been working fairly well. Also, feel free if there's just, an exciting link or an exciting event you may be having, feel free to also just post that in chat so people can see what might be happening in terms of what the members are involved in. So anyone have anything specific they might want to share? Raise your hand. Announcements, exciting news. Okay, Marty.
Hi, yeah, I was just going to mention that MDOT has a series of grant opportunities that are currently open. The Transportation Alternatives Program, which many of you are familiar with, has been used for developing some specific sites and trails. The Recreational Trails Program, those 2 programs are both federal monies that are administered by our State Highway Administration, and the deadline for those will be mid-May. And the Bikeways program will be opening for solicitation for this next fiscal year in May with a close date in June. I can put the links to those in the chat. We look forward to another great grant year.
Great, thank you. I think the more we can share those items, the better, so we don't have all possible resources that might be out there for them. Any other announcements or information people would like to share? Megan. received an RT grant for Dooling Creek. Very exciting to work with MDOT. It's great. Okay. Well, not hearing anything. I also want to circle back. Melissa, what's up with you, Melissa?
Yeah, sorry, I had to consult my calendar, but similarly, DHCD's state revitalization program grants will be open for application starting April 26th is the planned launch date.
Great. Ariane, could we also, if the staff sort of make note of these and make sure that folks are aware of these kind of very relevant applications, maybe for the heritage areas?
Yes, absolutely.
That would be great. The other thing I wanted to circle back with before we move to new business is any of the members, when we did the first roll call, that may have joined us since that roll call, that might want to do a shout out to everybody saying hi. Okay, I'll leave that then. Feel free to jump in. So, Marty.
Sorry, one more announcement. MDOT is also updating our bicycle pedestrian master plan currently, and we have a public meeting this evening, as well as a virtual public meeting this evening and an in-person meeting in Howard County as part of their Green Fest on Saturday. We've been happy to partner with lots of heritage area folks in developing recommendations for strengthening our bike ped access to heritage resources, and we invite your input as we develop this new 20-year plan that is on a cycle to be updated every 5 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Wilson. Avid kayaker, cyclist, runner, all of the above. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Okay. New business. We have something here, volunteers. Who wants to cover that one?
Yes, I just had one item related to this fiscal year 24 grant cycle that I wanted to bring up. As I think all of you are aware, in addition to our capital and non-capital project grants that are received from nonprofits and other agency and jurisdiction applications, we also provide management, marketing, and block grants to our heritage area entities. And those applications are going to be received in May. And the way the review of those management and marketing and block grants works is slightly different than the project grants. The project grants are reviewed by our grants review panel. That is a body of independent professionals and community members. But the management and the marketing grants are done by smaller review panels that are comprised of volunteers from the authority. So we'll be looking for folks to help us with those. Usually we only need 3 to 5 individuals for each review committee. So we'll be looking for a management grant review committee and a marketing grant review committee. So if anyone knows that they want to do that, they can let us know right now, or you can email. For the block grants, those are done by the staff at the state level. So we don't need a separate panel or group of volunteers for those grants. We just need the management and marketing review committees to be put in place. So anyone interested, please let us know. We will be recruiting, and we'll be looking for your participation between May and June, towards the end of May, and we can give particulars on dates if you're interested. And thank you, Liz,
Great.
for volunteering to do marketing.
Great, thank you. So I'm on by phone, everyone. You didn't lose me entirely. Everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great, okay, perfect. Well, we have done an excellent job moving through business and taking care of actions, which means that gives us even more time to hear about what's going on out there. So our next stage of the agenda is really hearing directly from the heritage areas. And I'm going to propose that everyone just take a stretch moment, get comfortable. A lot of really great things to be shared with us. So maybe take a stretch moment and then settle in. And we're going to have Bridget and Lucille of the Maryland Coalition of Heritage Areas kick us off with the report, and then we have time. I'm going to keep an eye on the clock, but it looks like we have plenty of time to actually hear from our 6 different heritage areas on the call and learn more about what's going on, have a chance for a few questions in the second half of our meeting. And with that, Bridget or Lucille, when you want to start?
Laura, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know that we did have a last minute request from the Baltimore National Heritage Area if they could also present during this portion of the meeting if time provided.
Yeah, I think we're doing well. So let's see if we can try to make that happen.
Okay.
And I think doing the agenda this way allows us for some degree of flexibility then towards the end, once I'm sure we've managed to get through all of the business. So we'll put that one after Patapsco Valley. Yes.
Thank you.
And so, so thank you for that. And so let's turn it over to Bridget or Lucille. Which one of you would like to start first in kicking us off for this section?
I have that honor. Thank you all. And thank you for including Baltimore. I do know they were in the original request for speakers today. So thank you so much for making room for their important presentation. So we first want to say welcome to you, Secretary Flora. Welcome to all the new faces and hello to all the returning faces. We appreciate that this is moving along quickly. We were worried about being at the end of the meeting today because we do not like being between members and their lunch. So we are going to move along as quickly as we can. So I am the executive director of what is now the Southern Maryland National Heritage Area. I'm a co-chair of the Maryland Heritage Areas Coalition. So the beautiful picture you all have, we'll have to make sure we get the name correct on that, the Maryland Heritage Areas Coalition. The co-chair with me is Bridget Carty of the Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway. She's on as well today. So Maryland is unique in many ways, as you all know, but only 3 states in the nation have a state-based heritage area, and Maryland is one of them. So kudos to Maryland for valuing its heritage. The coalition, we are made up of 13 heritage areas. We are each a unique entity working towards together to telling Maryland's story, as Mr. Lesher said so eloquently earlier. We are the programmatic end of this program. We're the boots on the ground. We're community driven. We are the ones that are local, working to bring grantees to the table, helping to usher them through the process when at all possible, all the way through. We help to define partnerships. We're a hub of partnerships, and we help to define place and regional identity. We work as closely as possible with the administrative end, the administrators, and this is all kind of complicated, as you all know. We probably need a flow chart. They are housed in MHT, and with you all, the governance end of this authority. So we want to be available to all of you all. We are here at any time to answer questions. Each of us are our own unique entity. Most of us are nonprofits. Some are associated with the county. We have one with the state. We each have our own boards, our own reporting, in addition to working and reporting with the authority. Just important to keep all that in mind. We are also, I think very importantly, the advocacy end of this program. We secure the funding each year. We are funded through the transfer tax and program open space. We also sit on the Partners of Open Space Steering Committee. Although all of this is housed in planning, as I said, we need a flow chart. We are funded by a separate stream, again, through the transfer tax. So we were really pleased a couple of years ago to work legislatively to lift the cap that was on this program and to double the funding from 3 to 6 million. That was a remarkable achievement, and we're still looking forward to possibly the next legislative session because there are so many excellent grants that are still being left on the table. So we're going to be considering that in this next session. We were glad when we were able to double the funding that we could double the administrative funding. Their percentage went from 300,000 to 600,000. It's important to note, and with the discussion with how we approached getting a little extra management funding for FY24, is that the management grants and management funds have never increased since the beginning of this program. So that's an important thing for us to consider, even though our workload has steadily doubled and tripled and quadrupled. And we actually love that because we love working with people and making this program what it is today. But we just have to keep that in mind. So in terms of a direct report, one of the things we do is we present. We do speeches throughout the state. We work directly with our legislators. We also join on major tourism days in Annapolis. We're always part of Tourism Day. A lot of us present to our delegations. We all work with our individual legislators. We were also part of the Rural Maryland Council Legislative Maryland Day again this year, which is another way for us as a coalition to bring this program to the eyes and ears of the legislators. Oh, I think I have an echo. Do I have an echo? Maybe not. Maybe not now. Okay, so that's one of the things that we do. And I was very honored. I got to be keynote speaker at Maryland Day down in St. Clements Island. And I know I'm not alone in this. Whenever I give a speech regarding my own heritage area, we all talk very specifically about the importance of this program overall to the state and the uniqueness of it. Currently, we're also preparing to go to a number of conferences, is what we do as a coalition in addition to individually. So we're preparing for MML and MACO. Often we sit on boards and and present during the MACO sessions. Just again, trying to make sure people know about this program and know how important it is to Maryland, because Maryland is a leader and we want to make sure everybody knows that. And that is our major report for today. We wanted to make sure we were just as clear as possible about some of what we do for the new members particularly. And again, when we talked about the concern about the processing time, we don't mean just this year. I know that it's very difficult. There's so many layers that our program has to go through. We're very mindful of that and appreciative of all the hard work that people do to make it timely. However, not being timely has really affected a lot of our, if we're talking about equity, a lot of our smaller underrepresented groups who can't wait for the funding for an entire year per se, will have to delay what they had planned or restructure what they had planned. So we really appreciate that you all are so mindful of that and are working towards doing what you can to streamline. So that's my report. And I think, unfortunately, you're seeing far too much of me. I think I'm like next. There I am, save the date. So I will be very quick on my news because other people have beautiful videos to show today. And we are in the process of a complete rebranding and restructuring as we start our process, but that will be for next time. So you heard that we are now a National Heritage Area. We are the Southern Maryland National Heritage Area, and becoming a heritage area, a National Heritage Area, is a really big deal. It means we're one of the foundation stories of our nation. And the reason that this was able to happen so quickly, and within 2 years, we're the fastest moving, apparently, I was told by my senator's office, is because of the story, the power of the story, and because of the unique partnerships. And part of what we're doing is to make sure we launch as a beginning step to bring everyone we can to the table to say this is a unique story for our state and our nation. We have a launch date of May 25th. It's at 12 noon in Piscataway Park because our new National Heritage Area includes Southern Prince George's, a really key factor in many of the primary national stories that we have. We are hoping to have as many of the authority as can come to this launch. We have been greatly honored that Governor Moore has agreed to be our keynote speaker. So we're thrilled with that. We're going to make it an event. We are having the recreated Maryland Dove. It's a 17th century vessel that founded Maryland. Of course, Maryland was founded in Southern Maryland. I just have to throw that out there. It will be sailing up. We hope to time it, and we're working with the captain right now so that it starts our presentation by sailing in at 11:30. The program begins at noon. We're going to try to keep it tight and end it by 1:15, 1:30. The site is open all day. However, we have a number of our partnership organizations there who will be having tables and displays. We are thrilled that we have a diverse and beautiful collection of people coming to this event and being part of this event. The Piscataway Conoy Tribal Council, the Piscataway Indian Nation, they will start the event for us ceremonially. So we're really excited and just want to make sure everyone knows about it. I wanted to make sure that you all had received the save the date. I know that our administrators are constantly getting requests from us to share things, so I just wanted to make sure that got out there. And also, we will have an official invitation as well next week for the authority and for others. You can register by your phone. You can even do it on the computer. You just hold up your phone and the QR code will read it. It just helps us because we also have food and refreshments. We're coordinating buses for a lot of our partners, distinguished guests, but also parts of our community that are underserved in general, and transportation is one of those underserved elements. So it's going to be a big deal. So thank you. And that is my quick version. And next time when I have a chance to present, we will unveil all our new look and branding. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lucille. That's really exciting. I see that's on my calendar.
I saw you were registered. Yay.
Well, it's on the calendar. I'll find out. Do my best to be there. And so the next up is Heritage Maryland, who is speaking on that one. Looking at everyone's names.
I'm too busy to represent the whole state. So my name is Sarah Rogers. I'm the executive director of Heritage Montgomery. And as the name says, we represent most of Montgomery County. So I'm just a one county heritage area. I've got three very quick updates to give you. We are proud to have the beautiful statue of Harriet Tubman at Button Farm, and Heritage Montgomery is a sponsor of that. It will be at Button Farm until May 30th. So if you can make your way over to the Button Farm Living History Center, please do. The next thing I have is our 24th annual Heritage Days weekend event, which takes place June 24th and 25th. Please come on out to that. We've got 30 to 40 parks open free. We've got the big parks like Glen Echo, the National Capitol Trolley Museum, to the little fellows like St. Paul Community Church, and the tiniest, the Gaithersburg Latitude Museum. And again, these are all free, and come and explore and enjoy Montgomery County. And the last thing I've got is we've completed over 20 partner videos which highlight our sites and the offerings of our sites. And you can see those on Heritage Montgomery YouTube or through our website. And that does it for me. Come on out and visit.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. That's great. Very exciting. Very exciting. So, and thanks for reminding me that it's Montgomery. So got that. So Mountain Maryland. Who do we have up on that one? Is that Kim?
Yes. Hi, everybody. This is Kim with Mountain Maryland Gateway to the West in Garrett County. I think Andrew's working on pulling up our new brochure, which is what I'm going to share with you today. And new collateral is not, anything new, but we took a completely different approach to our collateral. So I did want to share it with you. We previously had 6 rack cards that we used for our heritage area marketing. And it was an effort of like 2 years because we started this process during COVID and it just didn't happen. So we have finally created what we are calling a magazine. So it is now going to replace all 6 of our rack cards. And the logic behind that is just that heritage tourists like to read, unlike, a leisure traveler who wants bulleted items that tell them where, when, and how much, where a heritage traveler wants to get involved with the area. They're invested in the area that they're visiting. So we wanted to put all of that information in one piece. So that's what we've done with this new Heritage magazine. So I'm just going to go through it real quickly because it's pretty self-explanatory. We have a welcome on the first page, which basically, gives people some background about our heritage area specifically. And then we outlined our heritage area themes. And you'll see at the bottom there, we have a Did You Know section. So we have incorporated some history stories into the magazine because, again, these readers actually want to learn about the area that they're visiting and not just, visit one place and then leave. Okay, now you can turn, Andrew. Yeah, there we go. Oh, it's fast. So then we created a really simple map that outlines all of our towns. And in that map, it includes, heritage area assets. It includes heritage events that are happening in each town. And it also identifies any buildings that are on the historic registry. So this is meant to kind of hopefully be used more than once. People can check off where they've been, circle where they want to go, and hopefully it's not necessarily a throwaway piece anymore. It's something that they can keep and use hopefully on their next visit. And then we partnered with our DMO to, we kind of went into a lot of history on each one of our towns. And then we partnered with our DMO with the small town trail that we have on the tourism site. So people can read about the history of each town, and then they can visit the small town trail with the QR code. And then that will give them more insight into each town. Okay, next. Self-explanatory. We covered our state parks. We have the most state parks in the state of Maryland with 8. Each one is unique in its own way, so we wanted to cover that. Our museums as well are covered on the next page. And then you'll see there we have a QR code for our state parks to get more information again. And we have more stories. We covered, we covered Deep Creek Lake, the creation of Deep Creek Lake. We covered the inception of Wisp Resort, along with some other things. So, and then we have must-sees, just things that didn't necessarily fit into something that we wanted to make sure we mentioned. So this piece, there's a lot of information in there, but again, heritage tourists like to read. So it's a little text heavy, but we're hoping that they're okay with that. We feel like they're going to be okay with that. Next. And then the last page, we just, covered some, things that are unique to Garrett County, like the tallest waterfall in Maryland and the largest lake. And then Stay Connected, we've provided information that folks need to follow us on social, join our newsletter, join our kids club. All that information is found there on that last page. So again, it took us 2 years to get this done, but we're happy with it, and we hope to. We have a digital version available now, and we will have the printed copies available starting like May 1st. So we're excited to be able to share all of our information in one piece. And aside from this, I just wanted to mention that we are doing, the Heritage Area is sponsoring a collector county coin, which we kicked off our county coin collection last year at our 150th celebration. And they were a tremendous hit. Everybody literally was fighting for the collector coins. So we didn't want to kind of just let that die off. So we have, as a Heritage Area, decided that we will release a collector coin each year. And this year we will be celebrating the National Road and the Castleman River Bridge because it's the 250th anniversary of the bridge. So our coin will feature the National Road and the Castleman River Bridge, and they will be sold this summer so people can continue to add the coins to their collection. And that's all I have. Thank you.
That's a lot, Kim. Thank you. That's really exciting. I love the publication. I can't wait to see it. So thank you for sharing that. I also want to do a shout out. Did I see on video? Yes, Secretary Addix is with us. You want to say hi to everyone since we didn't have you earlier?
Sure, thank you. Just a quick hello. Thanks for the work that you're doing. And I've been a big fan of heritage areas. I see Lucille, who we've worked with at our agency and also in my former life working in agritourism. So keep it up. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Okay, Heart of the Civil War. Do we have Elizabeth with us?
Hi there. Welcome, everybody. And I'm pleased to give a brief report for the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area, starting with our ribbon cutting that's coming up on Saturday at 10:30 at the Newcomer House, which is in Keedysville. And it's actually a property of Antietam National Battlefield that we operate through a cooperative agreement as a visitor center for the whole heritage area. It's also the only domestic structure that actually witnessed the battle that is available regularly, open to the public regularly for people to enter. So we took the opportunity and with appreciation for some funding from the Maryland Heritage Areas Authority, we reinterpreted and reinstalled one of the front parlors to reflect that civilian experience. And Andrew, if it's possible to make that video pop up, will whet your appetite. You can see a little bit of it while it was in progress. Thank you.
I love it already. Front porches.
I'll do 16 sections of 72.
Thanks. I've just got a couple more slides. I'll share them when Andrew has a chance to bring them up. So that is Saturday, the 15th at 10:30. The ribbon cutting will be a fairly short event, but we do have interpretive programs planned throughout the day that will share with the public some of the thinking and some of the artisans who were involved in helping us bring that back. I wanted to mention that on January 31st, we hosted a summit for planning for the US 250th anniversary. With this, we introduced our role as a convener and a catalyst, but also making it clear to the 60 participants that it was up to them to go back to their communities, to expand their circles and their networks, and to begin working towards something, we hope will leave a legacy, will make an impact of enduring nature with the 250th anniversary. So we really just ignited thinking, and we were really happy to have a number of important individuals with us to share the landscape of what is happening in the state and at national levels. So you see here are various people who had a primary role that day. I'm there on the left. And then we have Madeline Rosenberg, who's the sesquicentennial or semi-quincentennial, got to get that out of my mouth right, coordinator for the American Association of State and Local History. Next to her is Emily Sexton, president of the America's 250 Foundation. Nick Redding, who's with us today, you all recognize as being on this authority and also part of the state 250th Commission. Next is our own board president, Kristen McMasters. Then we have Elizabeth Hughes, who participated as well for Maryland 250. And we had with us virtually on video, Angela Berard, who chairs that commission, or I'm sorry, who is the staff lead on the commission. And then Bert Comereau, who talked about his Maryland First project. It was a really great day, and we hope that we'll see that ignite some planning, and we are looking to reconvene just to hear back, what have people been doing, how have they taken what transpired that day, and they're beginning to put it to work in their own communities. Next slide, please. Uh-oh. Is it just those 2 slides you have, Andrew? Oh, there we go. Okay, so, and just real quickly, in our very first round of Heritage Area grants, we supported this project, the development of the Crossroads of War website, which is a joint effort of the National Park Service and Frederick Community College. And that, and they created this website that is very well used to this day. It's very much an archival resource. But it became orphaned at a point that that collaborative program was disbanded. This website was an orphan. In the last year, we've adopted it as the Heritage Area, and we have secured some funding through the American Battlefield Program to bring it up to speed technologically, to enhance it with more African-American programming in particular, but also to revisit all the contents that's there. So just to let you know, we're starting that process. We currently have an RFP out for a principal investigator looking for somebody with specific African-American history expertise. So let me know if you'd like to see that, or if you have somebody to direct to look at that. And then the last slide I have, just to let you know, an MHAA marketing grant that we're working on this year funded the our new logo that you see before you that's just been approved, and we're going to begin to roll that out. This is something that has followed on the heels of the development of our 6-year, in our case, strategic plan, action plan that you all just approved, so good thing. And this, we think that this logo will serve the directions that we've taken for the future, and we're just beginning to roll this out. So that's all from the heart of the Civil War. Thank you all.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. And you reminded me, I'll do a quick update on Maryland 250 at the end of our meeting too. Thank you for that. So next up, we have Stories of the Chesapeake. Gail, are you with us?
Hi, good morning. Gail Owens. I'm the director of the Stories of the Chesapeake Heritage Area that serves Talbot, Kent, Queen Anne's, and Caroline counties here on the Eastern Shore. I have 2 really exciting projects to talk about, and both of these projects illustrate the collaborative effort and how the funding from MHAA just builds and is so important to all of our communities and helps our local heritage areas. Andrew, the first one is the Museum on Main Street, Crossroads and Rural Communities. Typically, we are a supporter, and we try to bring as many of these exciting exhibits to our heritage areas as we can, but we've typically been in a supporting role. Due to several factors, we are now the lead for bringing the Crossroads to Chestertown and the Eastern Shore on April 22nd to May 31st. The opening event, which of course you are all invited to attend, will be April 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. This is a great program. It creates companion programming, great collaborations, partner city building, and next slide. One of the things that we did inspected all of our museums in Kent County, and every one of our Kent Small Museums had agreed to do a companion program, as well as Main Street Chestertown And many of our businesses have agreed that for some of the people that wanted to do exhibits that didn't have a place to put them, to allow the exhibits to be in their storefront windows during this time. Working with Washington College and Maryland Humanities, we took the approach of it's better to teach somebody how to fish than to give them a fish, and did a 3-part workshop series on interpretation and design, where the first was a video virtual meeting that said, this is how you do design, and this is what you do for interpretation. The next 2 were hands-on guidance. About 20 to 25 different organizations throughout our heritage area that attended. We had 8 interns from Washington College, so that each organization had an intern working with them on their projects, and then these projects will be part of our companion program for Museum on Main Street. So we hope you all come to Chestertown and see this exciting program. We're just so excited about it. Our next slide. Our next great program that's coming up on April 18th at 8 o'clock on Maryland Public Television, you'll be able to see Kent's Storied Landscapes. This is the 3rd documentary that has been created with MHA's funding within our heritage area. And this talks about the importance of cultural landscapes. And just to give you a teaser, we have a trailer to show you. If you can show that, Andrew, and thank you very much for everyone. While Andrew's pulling that up, we did have the world premiere of the documentary in Chestertown last week, which was standing room only. It was really very well attended, and thank you, Nick, for being part of the panel.
There is a place of rural life and maritime heritage,
The whole Chesapeake experience shapes this landscape.
where past stories of a land and its people were thought lost to time.
It's absolutely astonishing how much of it still exists.
And the present reveals a spirit of those whose lives depend upon the cultivated generosity of soil and sea.
It's amazing still to see the cycles of things.
Our family home is 300 years old, believe it or not. I represent the 6th generation farmer, and we love it here.
Maryland's Kent County lies between the Sassafras and Chester Rivers on the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay. Its cultural landscape is a reflection of how people have managed and used its resources.
People integrated into it, manipulated it, used it, and shaped it.
And how that use, in turn, has shaped this land.
It's really important to understand how this landscape evolved so that we can know how to think about it for the future.
In an era of bending nature to our will, Kent's lands and waterscapes still appear as they did to indigenous people centuries ago. Footprints of English settlements are being revealed, and citizens are finding their stories from history nearly forgotten.
I think it's important for us to remember the legacy that, we did have here, that we still do have a stake here, and that we have something that we can build on here.
This is Kent County's storied landscape, from its first inhabitants to today.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gail.
Oh, I was just going to add that Maryland Public Television is also creating a website that will have the interviews and outtakes that didn't make the 26 minutes and 54 seconds of the documentary. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Gail. It's particularly exciting to me since Elizabeth Watson is my neighbor. And in addition, I do plan to be at the Museums on Main Street event on the 27th. It's literally down the street for me. So it's exciting. Very great work. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We're doing great. This is what it's about, right? All these stories and great happenings happening on the ground. Great work, everyone. So the next one we have is the Patapsco Valley. And is it Aaron? Are you here to tell us about that?
Sure.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy to be here this morning. I want to highlight a couple things. Every March, we host a series of programming called Patapsco Days. So this past March, you see up on the screen three public lectures that we hosted with support both from MHA and from our leverage matching funds. Building upon the idea that's outlined in our management plan, as well as in the new 5-year plan, to really build a set of more inclusive stories about the Patapsco Valley. So the first one on March 3rd was Dr. Katz Turner from Towson, who's also leads the Natural History Society of Maryland's archaeology program, talking about archaeology in the Patapsco Valley. On March 16th, a partner who we've worked with, their physical location was flooded, is actually outside the heritage area, but we've worked with them on sort of exhibit consultancy and then bringing programs into the heritage area. The Howard County Center for African American Culture, which reopened at the end of February. Their curator, Marcus Nix, joined us to talk about African American resilience and history in Howard County. And then finally, a talk on sort of Patapsco stories writ large from a geologist and local writer, Ned Tillman, who did a really wonderful job sort of comparing the landscapes of the Gunpowder Valley in Hartford and Baltimore County to the Patapsco Valley in Howard and Baltimore County. And then we're going to, at the end of Preservation Month in May, we will be hosting our second annual Charles L. Weygand second annual Charles L. Weygand II Memorial Lecture, which will highlight the ecological history of the Patapsco Valley. And Charles Weygand was the sort of responsible for preserving the historic mill village of Oella, and doing substantial preservation work, bringing sort of some modern amenities while preserving the history of the Oella mill village. And that lecture comes in, Charles passed in 2020. Through generous donations that we've raised, we've been able to endow an annual memorial lecture that we plan to give, hopefully in perpetuity. So next slide, Andrew. The second piece is on a rainy day at the end of March. We were delighted, was happy to welcome Ariane, Andrew, and Martha to the heritage area for a day-long tour. And so this is them both above ground and underground at the Nike missile site in Granite, Maryland. And I guess what I said to the group is that we're bringing you to places that need work, that need help, and that would really benefit in a lot of ways from the support of the Heritage Area Program. And we talked a little bit, this is a community-led volunteer effort in partnership with the Maryland wing of the Civil Air Patrol at this site in Granite, Maryland. One of the few sort of really well-preserved, although obviously still needs work, Nike missile sites. Probably the most well-known one in the United States is in Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and that offers tours every Saturday for a short bit of time. And our sort of vision working with these partners is to preserve this site and ultimately open it up for public tours to discuss the Ajax and Hercules missiles, the nuclear tip missiles that were housed at Granite in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. For those of you who are Blair Witch Project fans, maybe this is a preservation story that you don't want to know, but adjacent to the site was the old Griggs house where the scenes from the Blair Witch Project were filmed, and that Griggs house no longer is extant. Next slide. This is a bit more of the tour that we took. I didn't capture everything, but you'll see the MHA staff standing on the swinging bridge in Patapsco Valley State Park, both front-wise. I didn't take the drone shot of them standing in the middle one. That's a different shot that we have. But we also paid a visit to Oella Cemetery, which if it isn't the only, is certainly one of the few company-owned cemeteries in the state of Maryland. Local community group, again, trying to make sort of taking up an effort to preserve, interpret, and restore the site. It's a site where basically employees of the Oella Mill were buried, and descendants of those mill workers have come to the cemetery to pay their respects from all around the mid-Atlantic and farther afield as well. So a community organization looking at open space preservation, historic preservation, and doing sort of updating work on the cemetery. Next slide. And then finally, I guess I wanted to close with an ongoing project that may be familiar to some of you, the Oella Mill project, the Ellicott Mill project, sitting alongside the Patapsco River in Baltimore County. You see on the top left, the extant building. This is a project, the mill closed in 2020, and the current potential developer is still tied up. There's a series of appeals that have been happening locally, but I wanted to highlight, and we sort of closed the tour with MHA staff talking a little bit about the status of the mill project. You see renderings of what this would look like, but both a multi-use facility with residences, businesses, a restaurant, public access to the river for paddling, easier access to trails, a variety of different projects associated with the potential restoration and reuse of historic Ellicott Mill in Oella. So this is an ongoing project that I just wanted to draw your attention to, and something I highlighted at the end of our tour. I'll also point out that the one image you see on the left of the moon over the silos at Ellicott Mill highlights every year we run a photography contest. This was a winner a couple of years ago from a local photographer, and it appears in our calendar from a couple of years ago. So if you're in the Patapsco Valley and taking photos, you can submit online and encourage your friends and family and colleagues to submit to capture the historic, cultural, and natural resources of the Patapsco Valley. So thanks for your time.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. That's great. I have a lot to learn. I've sailed up the river, but I have clearly need to done races on the river. I can't wait to learn more about some of the rest of the valley further up. That's fabulous. Thank you. Okay, next one is Baltimore. So we've added that on. Is it Baltimore City that we're doing?
It's Baltimore National Heritage Area, and Shantae, I'm sure, will be the one presenting.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome,
Hello,
Shantae.
Secretary Flora, and welcome to this really great group of people doing great work. So I think you've seen everybody. Baltimore's a National Heritage Area, just as Lucille has been designated this year. We've been a National Heritage Area since 2009. So I feel her pain right now. I'll pass on to that. But what I want to do is I wanted to present this particular exhibit that if you've been in the Capitol complex in Annapolis, you've seen it. It is a banner exhibit that is in all of the State House offices, as well as at the Banneker Douglas Museum. This is a representation of African Americans that have contributed in wars or conflicts. And I say conflicts because it goes all the way back to the American Revolutionary War and goes up through the Civil War to the war in Afghanistan. So, but this product was a part of our National Heritage Area funding. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that these people came from all over Maryland. So it is a Maryland Heritage Area story. You can go back and you may research any of those names and find out that they came from all over Maryland. So this is a Maryland story. It's just not a Baltimore story. And so I wanted to present that today and let you know that it is up. And if you want to see it, this right here is the brochure or the directory that tells you where all of, if you're interested in looking at one particular segment of the war, you can use this brochure to find out where it is located in the Annapolis complex. And then I would also like to give recognition that we went back in and, you always got to make yourself look good, right? We went back in after the first 39 banners were done, and we recognized that we had to pay respect to our new governor. So there is a banner that talks about Governor Moore's service and 4 other people that are significant from Maryland in the military. So This will be up. I believe they want to keep it up through the year so that school kids can come through and see it for the tourist season. So I just wanted to present that to you and let you know that this is a Maryland story. It's not just a Baltimore story. Now, the next slide, Andrew. This is something that we're extremely proud of that kind of arose out of our work, our equity work group. Is we have 4 grant programs that we actually administer. Well, we don't administer MHA, but that we facilitate or manage in Baltimore. And what we really wanted to do is we wanted to focus on where is our funding going. So this is an RGS map. This is just a static view, but if you go to our website and look for a grant equity investment map, you can pull up an actual active map that will show you investment of our grant programs, where they have been invested, where they've been given out. This will guide us as a heritage area to do more outreach and to identify those cultural institutions that are not applying for our grants for various reasons. We're not quite sure whether they don't know about us, whether they don't know that the funding is available to them, or whether they're eligible. So this is going to be our roadmap in determining where we focus and try to get out of a very unique situation that has been in Baltimore. So Secretary Flora, I don't know whether you know this, we are not the entire city of Baltimore. We are just, our boundary is about 26 miles deep. So we have to be very careful how we do this. We have to be very strategic. But what we wanted to do is we really wanted to recognize there's a thing that I'm sure most of the people on the panel have heard about, which is the black L and the white butterfly. I mean, reverse, white L, black butterfly, where investment has been strategic along the white L and has not reached out into the wings of the black butterfly. So we are intentionally looking at trying to reach those institutions, those organizations that would qualify for granting through this map. And we only went back to 2017. So there's been a lot of investment prior to that, but from 2017 through the current, this particular picture that you're looking at is only the applications that we received for this cycle for MHAA. So we are way ahead of it. We know where the applicants that applied this time, this was a snapshot of that. So that is what we are doing here in our heritage area, because we're just a little different with the fact that we're densely urban. And so we have to look at how things are. So I have no slide for this, but I would like to tell you this because someone mentioned that May is National Historic Preservation Month. So organically, our last lecture series on April the 28th is why does Baltimore own so many historic properties? And so it is a virtual lecture series presented at 12 o'clock noon, and it's absolutely 1 hour, so you can eat your lunch and listen to it. So it'll give people a perspective of why do we own so many historic properties, and why does the city own so many of them? So that's Baltimore in a nutshell. I welcome you to come visit us. I welcome all of you to come up and visit and see some of the projects that MHA has funded, and also just have a good time in the city. The weather is going to be great, and so I'm looking forward to seeing you out and about. Thank you so much for allowing me to get in on the end of this, and everybody go have a good lunch.
Shante, thank you. That's really great work you're doing. I'm looking forward to spending more time in Baltimore now that my offices are there, and I'm learning more about the work you're doing. So thank you so much. We're doing great on time. So what I'm going to say is that those that did not get to do an actual slide presentation, you will be included on the next meeting. But if you have any, I'm just going to go down through the list. And if you have any particular events or anything you want to quickly shout out to folks, let's just sort of give you that opportunity before we move towards adjournment. So I'm just going to go to the top. Prince George's. Megan, anything you want to do a shout out on? Are you here?
I'm here. Yes, thank you. Thanks for a great meeting. The annual Prince George's County Historic Preservation Reception, which is co-hosted by ATHA and our awesome partners at MNC PPC in the Planning and Preservation Department, will be the after party to Lucille's big launch, also on May 25th in Oxon Hill, Maryland.
Great. And that's the Anacostia Trails Heritage Area. Excuse me for not properly introducing that. Thank you.
It's very fair. Anacostia Trails Heritage Area, yes, in Prince George's County.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. We'll hear more from you in the next meeting. So the Chesapeake Crossroads. Carol, you want to add anything more about what's coming up that we should be aware of?
Well, we've just been coming to the culmination of an awful lot of work, but I will mention that we recently held our 16th annual Maryland Day weekend, which was 3 days. Because we've expanded, it's 42 different sites around the county. Most of the days we had great weather, and we look forward to planning for next year. And I don't have something to announce off the top of my head. Best wishes to you all. I can't wait to welcome you to our heritage area.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Canal Place Heritage Area. Deidre, are you on? Do you want to give anyone a shout out on anything?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And welcome everybody, all the new people. So we're in the middle, as you know, of a huge countywide boundary expansion. And we had a kickoff meeting about 2 weeks ago, had invited all the stakeholders that we thought should be included in the expansion. Had a great turnout. Actually went out on site to different places to talk to potential people that are going to be in the new boundary, which included the state park public land people. So we're really looking forward to, expanding our heritage area boundary because we have so many significant stories to tell. I wanted to shout out to Liz Fitzsimmons and Tourism and thank them for the $250,000 tourism grant that we got to apply to the River Park at Canal Place. And I'm happy to report that the Moore administration gave us an additional $1.5 million in our Canal Place operating budget to help complete the River Park at Canal Place project. That'll match the $6 million that we got from the feds. Comptroller Learman was out to visit Canal Place a couple of weeks ago as well. So we're very appreciative of all the support that we're getting from the new administration.
Great, thank you. And sure. I did see some presentations on Canal, so I'm looking forward to getting out there on the ground and learning more about that too. Thank you, Deidre.
Can't wait to have you.
Great. And so Heart of Chesapeake, anything you want to share? Holly, is Holly here? No problem. We'll get them next time.
No, we don't have anything, Ariane.
Okay. Thank you. And then the Beach to Bay, we just got your boundary expansion. Anything you want to share with us before we close out? Lisa? Okay. Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway.
Yes, thank you. So we're making trail development progress. The core of our heritage area is a 38-mile trail that connects all of our cultural and natural resources, working closely with Marty, with Bob, with DNR to make good advancement on our trail development. Look forward to having you guys up when you can and sharing all of our great progress. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Great. I think everyone has had a chance to share today. Did I miss anyone? The heritage areas. Okay. Well, we will definitely continue to work our agendas the best we can to allow for these updates and continue to include that because I think it just kind of brings this all to life. And thank you all for the great work you're doing. I am going to go ahead and move us towards closing out the rest of the meeting then with just a couple of items. The first one being Maryland 250. Just to want to let you know that we'll probably have a more deeper update at the July meeting. But I have been basically very much down in the trenches assessing Maryland 250, where it's at, talking with the governor's office, really looking at with the new governor, any updates that he may want to include to align our overall Maryland 250 with some of his priorities and thinking about the state of Maryland. So shouldn't fear that we've lost our way. We are actually trying to get on a very much more, I think, focused path forward. Basically, Nina has stepped down as chair. If you've had any interaction with her, and Angela will no longer be the director. It's basically very challenging for her over in Delaware to be able to really head this program up. So we will have a new director that we'll share with you probably before July. And yeah, working hard to reframe, rethink, and get this moving. So more to come on that one. I think that's the biggest thing that I forgot to mention earlier. At this point, I just want to remind the staff, if you could just make sure we capture those chat items that were in there. So if there's anything there we want to circle back to. And I appreciate everyone's patience with my connectivity. I finally found a solution, which is to use my iPad. So I promise to do better in the future, but thanks everyone for just keeping things moving. And we'll kind of keep these hopefully fun, to the point, and interesting as we move forward this year. So with that, I am going to take a motion to adjourn the meeting from one of the members.
All right, I can move that.
Second.
Thank you, Liz. Second is Pete, I believe. And I can't imagine anyone's abstaining or saying no to that. So I will proceed with adjourning our meeting. And thank you all for being here and participating. I'm very excited about working with you all as we move forward, and more to come. So